I think we have a quorum just by looking, so why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can we do a roll call, please?
Member Selman?
Here.
Member Chaplin?
Here.
Hart?
Here.
Member Ozark?
Here.
Member Healy? Member Rutledge?
Here.
Mr. Berlin?
Here.
Mr. Buckles?
Here.
Mr. Grogan?
Here.
Ms. Henry?
Gwen?
Here, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Mr. Mendrick? Mr. Katsarubis?
Present.
He's just phone. That's my phone. He doesn't want us to see him in his pajamas.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar.
So I believe we have a quorum. I think that was the end of the roll. So we'll move on to the next order of business, which is Chairman's remarks. Just real briefly, I know we have somewhat of a short agenda, but we do have 2 presentations slated from the Recorder's office today. So Recorder Buckholz, thank you for being here. We look forward to your presentations. Just for everyone's awareness, we did have a website design redesign presentation also on the agenda. We're going to go ahead and pull that item. If those who were here at the beginning of the meeting remembered, Don mentioned that there might be some challenges with funding from the CARES Act for that project. So while we'll continue to investigate it and obviously hope to make it a priority at some point, we're going to hold off on that for right now and wait until we have a little bit more information. So if there's no objection to that, that's what we'll do. Moving on, I'll entertain a motion to approve items, to combine and approve items A and B under the approval of minutes of the meeting from July 14th and August 11th.
So moved, Chaplin.
Second. Katsarubis.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, additions, corrections, or deletions? Connor, we have to do a roll call on everyone?
We have to do a roll call on everyone.
Okay.
Hearing motion to combine is always in order. We have that many things.
Okay. Well, I guess, so I got to split that up. So I'll do a motion to combine. I guess I could do combine and approve. So I'll combine and approve. We have a motion and a second, no discussion. Let's proceed to a roll call.
Member Selman?
Aye.
Member Chaplin?
Aye.
Member Hart?
Aye.
Member Ozark?
Aye.
Member Healy? Member Rutledge?
Aye.
Mr. Berlin?
Aye.
Mr. Buckles?
Aye.
Mr. Grogan?
Aye.
Ms. Henry?
Aye.
Mr. Mendrick? Mr. Katsarubis?
Aye.
Thank you. Those items are approved. Moving on to procurement requisitions, I'll entertain a motion on TEP 227-20 recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to SHI International Corp. to enter into an enterprise term license agreement with Adobe Systems Incorporated.
So moved, Chaplin.
Second, Selman.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Member Ozark.
Yes. I just wanted to verify, this is an addition of the Adobe Sign licensing to this contract because the dates are, I mean, it's almost expired November 10th, 29, or November 9th, 2020. Is this a change order of some sort, or what exactly is the, why are those dates in the past, I guess?
So it's a renewal of the Adobe license agreement. It actually starts November 9th. We're renewing it early because we're adding Adobe Sign.
Okay.
Because of the pandemic. So it's not just Adobe Sign, it's also a renewal of all the other stuff.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, Wendy, Member Ozark, were you able to hear that clearly? I know I had a little trouble.
It is an addition to an existing contract, is that correct?
Correct. It's a renewal of the existing contract, which ends in November. However, it's an addition of Adobe Sign to that renewal.
Okay, and then will we be seeing this again for renewal in November?
No, this renews the November contract. We're just renewing it.
So this contract is over November 9th, 2020?
No, starts. Right. The current contract is over November 9th, 2020. I don't know if the dates on the agenda are wrong.
Okay.
The current contract expires November 9th, 2020. This is to renew that to go to November 9th, 2021.
Okay.
Okay, so the dates are wrong.
What I wasn't clear about. So do we need to amend what we're agreeing on today for the dates? Because it says 19 to 20.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
We have the correct dates. The paperwork is correct. You don't need to amend the agenda. It's the same general gist of what we're doing. That's what it requires. As far as the supporting documentation, as long as that's accurate, just make
Okay.
sure you correct the blurb when it goes to finance. Just
Okay,
note- Yeah, and note on the minutes that there's a scrivener's error in the agenda.
Okay, so let me just repeat that because I'm at least having a little difficulty hearing. What I understand is that the supporting documentation has the correct dates. We don't need to amend our motion to amend the blurb because the supporting documentation covers that. Is that correct, Connor?
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussions? Questions? Hearing none, let's proceed to a roll call.
Member Sullivan,
Aye.
Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Chairman Hart,
Aye.
Member Ozark,
Aye.
Member Healy, Member Rutledge. Mr. Berlin,
Aye.
Mr. Buckles.
Aye.
Mr. Grogan,
Aye.
Ms. Henry,
Aye.
Mr. Hendrick, Mr. Katrubis,
Aye.
Okay, the item passes. Moving on to item B, I'll entertain a motion on 2020-224 recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Kinsey and Kinsey Inc. for
Move.
professional services, perform a security review of the ERP system and make changes or create reports to track COVID expenses.
Move approval. This is Henry.
Second Chaplin.
A motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, this, I think this one looks the same. It has a August 25th through November 20th for contract total. Is this the same thing with the COVID that we're extending it to 2021?
This is a new contract, and it's just going through the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call.
Member Sullivan,
Aye.
Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Chairman Hart,
Aye.
Member Ozark,
Aye.
Member Healy, Member Rutledge.
Aye.
Mr. Berlin.
Aye.
Mr. Buckles.
Aye.
Mr. Grogan,
Aye.
Ms. Henry,
Aye.
Mr. Mendrick, Mr. Katrubis,
Aye.
The item passes. Moving on to informational items, I'll entertain a motion to approve and place on file items A and B under informational.
So moved Chaplin.
Second, Sullivan.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions about those items? Hearing none, let's go to a roll call.
Member Sullivan,
Aye.
Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Chairman Hart,
Aye.
Member Ozark,
Aye.
Member Healy, Member Rutledge.
Aye.
Mr. Berlin.
Aye.
Mr. Buckles.
Aye.
Mr. Grogan,
Aye.
Ms. Henry,
Aye.
Mr. Mendrick, Mr. Katrubis,
Aye.
The items are approved and placed on file. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's proceed to our presentations. As I mentioned, we have the recorder with us today to walk through his budget presentation. Mr. Recorder, if you don't mind, I can't see where you're sitting, but I know for anyone who's not sitting at the table, at least on my end, it's a little difficult to hear. So if you don't mind sitting at the table, if you're not there already, that'd be great. And with that, the floor is yours.
There's the public comment. Public comment. We have to do public comment, Greg.
Oh, I forgot public comment. Is there any public comment?
There it is.
We do have one public comment for the record. It's from Edgar Powell. It's regarding YouTube channels. It says, I recently noticed that the county has set up multiple YouTube channels to publish its videos. For example, the county clerk's office created a channel for election-related videos. The county board created a separate channel for board committee meetings. Why are separate channels being created? A YouTube channel is already available for the county as a whole. It seems redundant to create additional channels for individual agencies or departments. Having separate channels could potentially be confusing to the public, but I can also see the value of having a specific location for videos related to the election or to public meetings. There's a way to accomplish this goal without having multiple channels. Within a channel, you can create separate sections to help organize the content. Perhaps this is an option that you may consider. If you consolidate everything into the county's channel, you can still have separate actions, a separate section for the clerk's office and also for board committee meetings. That concludes Mr. Pell's comment.
Thank you, Connor. And there's no other public comment, correct? You said?
No other public comment. There's nobody but staff in the room.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And I'll just briefly take a point of privilege here and thank Mr. Pell again for his always insightful comments. Really appreciate his engagement. I know that there is the potential for confusion right now with how the county channels are organized and the number of channels. The DuPage County channel has always been the point of record for our YouTube presence. I know there have been subsequent channels made in the era of COVID just to ensure that information is getting out as quickly as possible from some different areas of the county. But we're going to take that from an IT standpoint and look at how we can best consolidate that to make sure the organization is easy to understand for our public. Don, anything you want to add to that?
No. As Greg mentioned, we'll take a look at it. There's a number of nuances that go along with streaming and how things are set up in the YouTube channel. So certainly appreciate the comments from Mr. Pell. However, that's a little more complicated than that. And then there's also the domains of the people who own those channels, like the county clerk. So something to work on. Yes, something to work on.
And when you have things like the county clerk, I mean, she has her own authority, and she may think something is the most important thing, whereas the county board may think it's the third most important thing. So I think when it comes to the elected officials, it may not be as simple as just having us all on one piece of paper.
Yep, agreed. Okay, thank you for the reminder for public comment. I never want to change that. So thank you.
You don't want to go to jail.
Yeah. So with that, I believe, Mr. Recorder, the floor is yours, and feel free to proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Hart. My name is Fred Buckles. I'm the DuPage County Recorder. Seated to my left is Tony Manzulo, my Chief Deputy. He's going to present the budget proposal today.
Can everybody hear me if I have my face up? Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. Yes. All right, well, I'll keep going. If you can't hear me, please let me know. My name is Tony Manzulo. I'm the Chief Deputy Recorder. Today I'll be presenting our FY 2021 budget proposal. I'm fogging up a little bit here, so I'm going to only downfall to this. The recorder's budget consists of three fund types. The first and by far largest is the County Recorder General Fund, and that is approximately $1.5 million. The other two are special revenue funds, Recorder Doc Storage, which you'll be hearing a little bit about at Finance Committee, and the Recorder GIS, which is made up of $1 of the $15 that is applied per recording for GIS. County IT GIS gets 14 of that. The county recorder retains $1. For the purposes of our discussion this morning, I wanted to focus mainly on the general fund. And if we have time, which it looks like we might, we could wrap back around and discuss in brief the other two funds. I was going to start with expenditures first, kind of get the rough part out of the way, but I thought, you know what, let's start out on a good note. Everybody likes revenue, especially the finance department. So this year, our revenue projections look pretty good. We estimated last year that we were going to most likely come in around 6.6 million. Now that's an amount that goes into the general fund, okay? Last year, 2019, we had a phenomenal year. I wasn't quite convinced it was going to be a repeat, so I went a little bit conservative at 6.6 million, and it looks like we're tracking toward that number. Right now, down at the bottom, I took a little snippet of one of my own little worksheets. The $4.8 million figure is an actual figure as of the end of July. So you can see we're well on our way to hitting that $6.6 million projection with 4 months to go. Can we back it up to revenue real quick? I just wanted to mention in the revenue, the Treasurer's Office has two main revenue types that contribute to the general fund. That's the real estate transfer tax, or as we refer to it as transfer stamps, and the recording fee. Both are on track to meet their budgeted projections from 2020. The transfer stamps might come in just a little bit under 4.2 million. However, the recording fee is actually outperforming where it was last year. And the reason being is we're currently at 94,000 document recordings for the year. To give you an idea, I estimated somewhere between 100,000 and 105,000 for fiscal year 2020. So we're recording a lot of documents. The coronavirus hasn't slowed down that process. We've been processing somewhere around 11,000 documents. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be ignoring you guys here, but I'm trying to the voice reflect this way. 11,000 documents per month. If you don't know about the documents, a document can consist of anywhere from 4 to 17 images on average. We could have a document that has 1 image. We could have a document that has 100. But the average is somewhere between 4 and 17 images per document.
Chairman Hart, could I ask a question? Or would you rather us wait to the end?
Could we wait?
Go ahead, Member Sullivan.
Okay.
Just quickly about the revenue. So looking forward to 2021, are those transfer stamp fees that you're projecting, those would be based on property sales or transfers within 2021, correct?
Correct. But it's important to note that the transfer stamp revenue applies to the net consideration, not necessarily the value of the sale.
But it has to sell, right? There has to be a transaction.
There has to be a transaction. Yes.
So have we consulted with Giving DuPage or some other entity? Because I don't think it's realistic to be expecting that our property sales will stay level next year. I just don't think any national economic indicators are giving us that information. So I just want to make sure we're not overestimating revenue with not considering a downturn in especially the housing market that's expected to come.
I thought I was to say last time, because I thought that new home sales and home sales were at an all-time high.
So 32% of Illinoisans, however you say that, are expected to miss housing payments starting in August. And that will only get worse, as we discussed before this meeting started. We don't have an extension of CARES. We have no anticipated date for a new federal action. So I just want to make sure, I know DuPage County is better than that 30% statistic. I think our unemployment rate's a little bit lower than the state average as well. I just want to make sure we're not getting stuck in this trap of DuPage County does a little better. We have a higher educated population, so our economy can do a little bit better. But we still have a high amount of renters who are already missing rent payments and will have to go somewhere else maybe. We're going to have a lot of change in our housing stock specifically. And I just want to make sure we're projecting as well as we can for next year. I know none of us have a crystal ball, but I just want to make sure we're noting that.
Foreclosures count as filings, right?
Correct. Well, we have sheriff's sales.
Right. So unfortunately, in bad times, we also generate revenue because of the fees that have to be filed, because of foreclosures and things like that.
Oh, those still have a fee that's paid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Helpful. Thank you so much, Chairman.
Chairman?
Yes, Member Ozog, please.
Thank you. On the flip side of that, though, with the interest rates at historic lows, I think that there is, just observing in my own town of Glen Ellen, things are going up for sale and seem to be moving. I'm seeing sold signs all over the place, but I think I've read that the interest rate is driving quite a bit of home sales and purchases. So I think it's a tough call right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we let the recorder proceed? Recorder's office? Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Both members brought up good points that I myself think about every day. Member Shulman brought up whether or not this is a number that you know, is it going to hold throughout 2021? As you said, well, none of us know for sure, but I'm sorry, the data we have available now, which is historical data and current data, as was brought up, merchandise in the real estate market seems to be moving and moving well. The tail will be over the next 4 months. That's what I'm going to be looking at, the transfer stamp revenue intake over the next 4 months. If it remains constant or has an uptick, that does bode well going into 2021. Member Ozog brought up the number of recordings. Most of our recordings are driven with mortgages and mortgage releases. So you're absolutely right. Refinancing is happening. We're getting a lot of that, and that drives the activity rate up as far as recordings is concerned. So these are all the variables that we look at, that I look at every day when I can't sleep at night wondering how the numbers are going to hold going forward. I've been doing it for 14 years now, so you know, nothing surprises me, but it's always interesting to see how current either economic trends or anything happening in our society, how it affects these numbers. And it does affect them to a certain degree. But, you know, as my member Rutledge brought up, the real estate economy here in DuPage is currently doing quite well. Expenditures. Okay. I had to break these up because, you know, if you saw the Oracle reports, the print is real small, and I have magnifying glass when I have to look at these. So I thought we'd take these in 2 slides. The personnel expenditures going forward for 2021. Overall, our expenditure budget is actually 2% lower than what we had asked for last year. And there's a couple of reasons why that is. We have some vacancies in our positions, and we also have quite a few higher level retirements that are going to be happening prior to the end of the year. So the anticipation is that we shouldn't need, when we do refill those positions, they will probably be most likely at a lower level. I did the reduction scenarios for you, but I realized I didn't take into account that I've already reduced it by 2%. So my 10% is actually 12, my 20 is 22, and my 30 is 32. And that's just for conversation's sake. We reduced our overtime budget from 24.5 to 14.5, kept everything else pretty much the same. And again, the thinking with the vacant positions is we have a lot of experience in our office still. We're going to see how this goes going into the next fiscal year. I do think we're going to have to make a few hires, adjust a few salaries as people take on more responsibilities and higher positions. We have our office manager who's been with us for 35 years. Will be retiring. Deputy recorder will be retiring. So we have some experience. A lot of our experience there will be leaving, but we do have a lot of folks on deck that we can move up and put them into those positions to carry us into fiscal year 2021. The commodities and contractual budget for general fund is fairly small compared to the personnel side, obviously. It's practically identical to 2020. When this was prepared, I thought, you know what, we're going to go into 2021 with the same mindset we went into 2020 expenditure-wise toward the general fund, anticipating that in some of these cases, it either will be at the same expense or possibly lower. I did budget travel expense. I don't think we're gonna do much traveling next year if things keep going the way they are, but I just felt with a new recorder coming in that either, there's a good chance that there might be some training opportunities for that new recorder. So I wanted to be prepared in case things do get better and that recorder would like to go and get some training if it's not offered virtually, which everything seems to be offered virtually today. But, again, I don't have a crystal ball, so I'm just trying to prepare for those unknown contingencies. That's pretty much it. Our software maintenance agreements, those are for our various programs that we run. The statute reads that the general fund has to supply or is to supply a certain amount of funding toward that. The dock storage fund is really where we push a lot of that now off to. So as our general fund gets reduced, if we can't cut on the personnel side funding, we go down to our tech spending and push that off to the dock storage fund and the recorder GIS fund. One note though, I want to just mention the statutory fiscal charges that we budgeted $12,000 for. I'm not sure how if that's even gonna be needed going into 2021. We are currently in conversations with Treasurer Henry to move our bank account that we have had for forever and put it under the umbrella of the treasurer. Decided to do that, seemed like a good time to do that. And maybe there'll be some savings as far as bank fees realized with that move. I'm not sure if that's going to happen that way, but I'm hopeful that maybe we'll get to save a few. If you noticed in 19, we spent half of what we were budgeting for this year. So those banking fees, at the very least, most likely will be somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 if we have to expense that. Oh, that's fine. Additional information, just a few things. We are anticipating, as I said, meeting our revenue goal of 6.6 million. It's much nicer coming in and saying that than going, I don't think we're going to hit it, but pressure seems to be off on that. E-recording has almost doubled this year to 80% from 40% a year ago. This is attributable mostly to the coronavirus effect. We have less foot traffic that was coming in. There was a period of time where we didn't have any foot traffic coming in, even though we were operating every day, recording documents every day throughout the coronavirus period of time that started in March and April. We opened the office fully for all services somewhere around June 15th, I think it was. So we've been open entirely for business and we've been getting it since June 15th. So I like this number because we put a lot of research and time in promoting e-recording. It's another way, it's a modern way to deliver documents to the office. It cuts time down tremendously. And everybody's talking about, the post office these days. This is one less item that's put into the postal arena to lessen, that particular part. So yeah, we think it's great. E-recording is good. I don't know if it'll ever hit 100% because we're still going to have traditional companies that either mail overnight or, if you can believe it, walk their documents into the office. But the hope is 85 to 90%. That would be the target goal. Our recordings have remained steady throughout the pandemic period, and we're currently sitting roughly at 94,000. This was a number that I took as of the end of July, so we've surpassed 95. We're closing in on 100 as we speak. The general fund budget's 2% lower, I said that, and the 2021 is going to be primarily a maintenance budget, much like 2020. There is some there are some old film that I'm going to recommend that we digitize and restore. Film, as you know, only has a shelf life of maybe 50 years if you're lucky. We still do film, even though we are digital. It's a means of our disaster recovery process. And if you can believe it, the statute still says that documents are to be microfilmed. So we continue to do that.
Hey, Tony, not to interrupt, I do want to be cognizant of the fact that it is 8 o'clock. I know we have a finance meeting. I do want to make sure that the members have opportunities for any additional questions that they may have. I appreciate your presentation. Any questions for Tony or the recorder from members of the committee? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We really appreciate it. Of course, if any questions do come up, I'm assuming it's all right if our members reach out and ask you directly, Tony and Fred. But thank you for coming here and appreciate the presentation. Great. Okay, moving on to the next order of business. Any old business? Any new business?
Greg.
Member Sullivan, please.
Sorry, very briefly. And I know you and I had talked a little bit about this, and Don, maybe you could update us on email with we're short on time. I had noticed some of the August 4th videos, I can't find them, and that's when a lot of our budget presentations happen. I will fully admit it's a possibility. I don't use YouTube very well, but if you can help us figure out why the links aren't available on like the main site where the meeting notes are, or how we're going to get that sort of synced up in the future, that would be helpful. But I know we're short on time, so email's fine.
It should all be out there. We'll make sure that everybody, it might be a little jump on that. So we'll take
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Sullivan. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you all for joining. Thanks again.